Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are and however you're listening to this. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Raiguel. I'm the CEO of Gen Re.
Hi, I'm Charlie Shamieh. I'm the chairman of Gen Re, and I've been at Gen Re since 2018, been in the industry for 35 years, and I'm very much looking forward to asking Cara about the world.
And I have some questions for Charlie as well. I think we both learned a lot on our journey, and that's 3 years, part of a 100-year journey for Gen Re and 175 for Cologne Re. So just curious, Charlie, what is it about the way that the Gen Re associates work with their clients that you've been the most impressed by?
I think the key thing that is still there is, and hasn't really been tainted by any of the various ebbs and flows of our history, is just the underwriting integrity and the willingness to do what's in the long-term best interests of the client. And that those words, long-term, I think often are missing from how many other reinsurers and even, frankly, primary insurers play in the industry today, particularly when you think we have a lot of private equity-owned capital that has come to the industry very recently in the last 10 years or so. And that private equity is interested in medium term, not long term. They're interested in a 5-year maximization of return for their shareholders that may not always be consistent with long-term value creation. And to find almost every associate that you meet on the underwriting account executive side having that at the forefront of their mind is pretty unique. It's not something that I take for granted, and you can't build that in a couple of years. It takes decades to build that sort of culture. So I feel very fortunate, frankly, to be a part of this team.
How do you see being owned by Berkshire as an advantage for Gen Re?
The unique thing about us is our shareholder does not measure our value using traditional insurance and reinsurance industry metrics of return on equity, and rather is looking at the solidity of our long-term underwriting profits. And that's really unique.
When you think about all the associates that you met at Gen Re, what are some of the qualities that you find are consistent around the world for us?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is resilience. It's pretty incredible to see how resilient they are. There's also a lot of humility, learning what went wrong and trying to do something better in the next period. And that's a real positive attribute that I think leaves us in pretty good shape. So Cara, since you've been at Gen Re, what have you enjoyed most about your job day to day?
The energy from the client. I have been on more tours of more offices around the country that have just been fascinating. You learn history, you learn culture, you learn pride in an organization and a community that has been really impactful to me. And it really resonates to sit in that conference room with a client and learn about what they're concerned with and how can we help them. And that creates that energy, and that just starts to become a part of your DNA.
Okay, so Cara, Gen Re descended from the Norwegian Globe Insurance Company in 1921 with 1.7 million of capital, headquartered in New York City. And its early days were pretty much unremarkable. And it wasn't really until 1945, after the merger with the insurance business of Mellon National Bank, that a new path and strategy was formed. And then what followed was a record string of underwriting profit years from 1948 to 1973 under the leadership, in one form or another, of Ed Lowry. And he said, if you're going to be in the reinsurance business, ordinary pride and self-respect should make you want to be good in the insurance business. And being good in the insurance business meant making a profit out of it. Not a profit through your investments, but a profit from your insurance. So in 2021, looking back at the last 30 years nearly for you, do you think our industry has lost sight of that goal?
I think when you look at our returns in the industry, we've lost our way on that to a certain extent, but not for every organization in the group. There used to be a lot of pride in companies to earn underwriting profit versus operating profits. I don't think that we fully consider all the various outcomes as an industry.
And do you think some of your clients have navigated that path better than others?
There are some companies that navigate that amazingly consistent. The companies that focus on executing well, understanding risk, being prepared to say no when it's the right time to say no, they do a good job of maintaining their integrity in their processes as an organization.
The other thing that Ed Lowry said was, a good insurance man ought to conduct his business so that he took in enough money to pay his losses, to pay his expenses, and have something left over. Half a century later, how much has our industry changed in terms of always presuming that a good insurance executive is a man?
I think it's a mistake to assume that it's going to be a man going forward, but you can't look back and not see that. I think as an industry, we've let down our daughters, and I think we can do a better job going forward. And when someone shows up at Gen Re today, I hope no matter who they are and what they look like and what their special skills are, they have a shot to be whoever they want to be. I think as an organization, we've gotten a lot of clarity in society over the last, I'll say over the past 12 months. It's really come home to ring true for many of us, and we're feeling the need more so than ever to do action along that lines. But I think going forward, there'll be a lot more females in senior executive roles, running companies, shareholders, all of the above. I just think there's going to be a lot more of us to learn from going forward.
Let's talk a bit about climate change. Is it a major challenge for the property and casualty insurance and reinsurance industry?
So climate change is a huge issue for our industry. It's been clear that there is stuff going on, and I say stuff, meaning events that are happening that are creating way more losses than expected. Part of this is because the Earth is a different Earth we're insuring today than we insured 20 years ago or 40 years ago or 100 years ago. Certainly with a warmer Earth, there's different weather patterns, there's more volatility in weather patterns, and we have a lot of work to do as an industry. We need to figure out better how to evaluate that risk, how to project that risk, right? Again, from an accumulation issue as well as from a pricing issue, and what the right recommendations are for protection that our clients should have as well. I'd be curious from your perspective how you think that affects the life side as well and some of the businesses that Gen Re has around the world.
I think the key thing in life and health is, will this have an adverse impact on the mortality improvements that we've seen over many years? When you think about 35-year-old taking out a policy today, what their life expectancy will be is a factor of clearly their environment and access to healthcare, their economic situation, and all of those factors can change dramatically as local communities undergo rapid change. The one practice that I think all insurers and reinsurers should consider is stress test your business plan for these effects.
I have a question for you, Charlie, with a little bit of data in it. So our industry in protecting individuals and businesses around the world is dependent on the interplay of many principles, including primary insurers, brokers, asset managers, insurtechs, and often monopoly information providers like rating agencies, lots of organizations in the food chain. Over the last 10 years, when you measure their total return with dividends, the value chain looks incredibly distorted, with the primary life companies generated returns of just over 6%. Primary P&C companies generated returns just over 14%. Reinsurers are between the two, with the largest publicly listed reinsurers generating returns around 11%. Brokers, 16.5%. Tech providers generated 17.5%. The monopoly information providers are over 26% annually. So how do you see this value change evolving over the next decade or longer than that?
I think when you compare the amount of capital that shareholders need to put at risk for the different activities in that value chain, it certainly doesn't seem like the rewards are commensurate with the amount that's at risk. So I really think it's important for insurers and reinsurers just to rethink the value chain and how you carve up that value chain. Because on the one hand, we want to see more and more members of society protected. Families, individuals, small businesses, large businesses, etc. That's definitely a good thing. And on the other hand, the more and more other monopoly-like institutions carve up that industry and get egregious returns, the more expensive the end product is to the customer. Do you see it differently from your side?
So going to the view of the value chain, like on that, I believe there are always better ways that we can find to do things. I think there's always an advice component to what we deliver. I do believe that as an industry, we need to continue to evolve to find more efficient and effective ways to do that. So I think we need to be creative and be open to all the changes that are going to come for us to thrive and deliver that value to the society.
I have to say the one thing that has stood out for me since joining GenRe is just how much the facultative franchise of GenRe is valued. How important do you think is the facultative business today?
I think the facultative departments all around the world at GenRe are a huge asset for their organization. They are valuable to our clients. There's times when that volatility is disconcerting. A client might not have as much data as we might have in the nature of the risk that we see, and we can provide value and comfort and pricing from an underwriter at an insurance company to an underwriter at GenRe. And that conversation is like what I get excited about and what I say joy from, because I can see the value being delivered. You have to understand what you're underwriting, and I do believe through those conversations, both GenRe and the client learn something and builds a better portfolio together over time. Some of the closest connections I've seen with some of the GenRe associates with their clients were built from a facultative trading relationship. And again, that's why I think that network is such a huge asset for us, because they're all future leaders of not only GenRe, but of our clients as well. On the life side, do you see similar interaction between the GenRe associates and the clients?
Firstly, I think the one thing that characterizes our life and health facultative underwriters or medical underwriters is just the phenomenal research and familiarity with evolving medical care, scientific care, health trends, etc. And that's really a global level of expertise, and seeing that know-how being translated into other markets. And so being able to allow each market to sort of learn from each other has been, really, really great to see GenRe do something pretty unique in that space. And I think it's a big future development, because we all want more individuals to be protected to a greater extent. We're underprotected in almost every corner of the world. And so figuring out how to do it more efficiently is an important thing for us to try to tackle, and our clients to sort of benefit from that research that we can bring to bear.
So wrapping up this conversation as we look forward to the next 100 years, and I know we probably both won't be here for that anniversary. Unless
Speak for yourself.
Right? Unless there's maybe Warren Buffett will be here for that, right? Let's hope. I'll speak for both of us, and you can add any color if you want to, but I know we both feel that we are custodians effectively for the opportunity that we both are very grateful to be given. We take responsibilities to our shareholders seriously. We take responsibilities to our associates as well as our clients. So as we kind of wrap up the first 100 years for GenRe and the 175 for Cologne, I look forward to, for as many decades as we can do it together, to continue with integrity the responsibility that we have to all of our constituents.
Thank you, Kara.
Thanks, Charlie.